Good morning. This is Tim Harris with the Harris Real Estate University. And like every Friday here at Harris Real Estate University, Julie and I provide what we call a free superstar interview. Now, we've been doing these consistently every Friday since, I think, 2007. So as you can imagine, there's quite a library of past superstar interviews. Now, who do we select and who do we request be a superstar interviewee? Because, guys, we get a lot of people wanting to be interviewed, but frankly, we are very selective on who we choose to share this time with you. Who can attend the interview? Anyone. Who can be part of the interview? Very few. You have to be someone that Julie and I know and trust, which is certainly the case with Amy today. You have to be a real estate luminary of some sort, which I suppose is also true with our superstar today. An author that maybe has nothing to do with real estate, or an economist, somebody from the National Association of Realtors. You guys get the idea. Anyone and everyone who's going to make a contribution to your real estate career because they've made a contribution to the real estate industry is part of the Superstar Interview Series. So without any further delay, or puffery for that matter, I want to welcome longtime Harris Real Estate University friend, Miss Amy Stoehr. Hello, Amy, and welcome to the call.
Tim, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's absolutely our pleasure, and thank you for setting aside the time to do this. So, Amy, Julie and I have known you for a long time. I mean, maybe it's worth mentioning how we actually met.
Well, as I recall, you two were kind of rookies of the year in real estate. I believe, and correct me if the numbers are wrong, Tim, that you two did $10 million in your first full year in real estate way back in 97.
The more impressive number is actually 103 homes. We don't even mention the $10 million.
Okay.
Because that's like a week's
both
production.
Impressive in 1997, I got to tell you.
It was. So but more specifically, though, you were working with Howard Brinton.
Yes, I've gone to work with Howard Brinton at the old Star Power Systems, and you guys were the featured interview of the month in 1998. Is that right?
I think so.
I don't remember which month. Maybe September. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I just got to tell your listeners, and I'm sure they're all drinking your Kool-Aid already anyway, but from the moment I met the two of you, I knew I'd encountered something special because you're both so genuinely interested in figuring out what it takes to be successful. And didn't you have a successful car washing business or something when you were in college?
We did actually when we were in high school. Julie and I met in high school. We're feeling very nostalgic this week because we've been married. We
had our anniversary.
Yeah, we had our anniversary a couple of days ago, 19 years, and we met when we were in high school. And yeah, we had a car cleaning and detailing business that we more or less paid our way through college with. So, yeah. But I mean, more specifically, you're kind of talking about the same thing I'm talking about, sort of the entrepreneurial angst that all of us feel, right? I mean, that's kind of what the quality is that you're pulling out, and that's something that we certainly always noticed about you. And Amy, you're obviously a great real estate coach. You started out by essentially running Howard Brinton's Star Power business during its best years, and I think that probably everyone will agree that was associated with that organization at the time, that it was probably the pinnacle of really, I think, real estate education at the time. Now,
I agree.
So hats off to you on that one. So you got exposed to, and that's how we met you. You were exposed directly to some of the top producing agents in the country at the time, and in Canada for that matter, because that was kind of Howard Brinton's model at the time, was to kind of seek out the best realtors in the country and feature them for a monthly interview. And that's how we met you. So you must have learned a lot from direct exposure to all those top producers. What maybe be two or three of the qualities, since we were sort of talking about entrepreneurial angst, that you saw in all of those people? Were there specific qualities?
Absolutely. I'll tell you one that stands out for me even more so today than it ever has is when you hit a wall, figure out a way to go around it, over it, or knock it down. This group of entrepreneurs that I've had have been blessed to count some as friends and know as colleagues over the years. Doesn't matter what the obstacle is that's put in front of them. They figure out a way to either move it out of the way, knock it down, or go a different direction. Whereas so many people right now in the industry I see just getting completely stuck. They've got this wall of a bad economy or this wall of deflated prices or this wall of short sales, which they think are just too much work to take on. There are so many walls popping up in front of them, and they don't have the wherewithal to work through it. Now, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir with your people, Tim, that they're with you because they are the type of mindset that works through it. I would say that's the biggest one. I would also...
Let me just stop. I'm sort of curious, because this is something that Julie and I talk about a lot, right? So what's the difference? What is it that, because you can't put it in a pill, which we wish we could. You can't just basically have one motivational talk with someone and have that switch flipped in their minds. What is it that really makes it so that someone's got that, call it what you will, X factor, the whatever it is? How is it that some people seem to have it and other people don't seem to have it, but they can get it? You know, what's the difference? What's missing? What is the internal thing that makes one person have a lot of drive and desire and a no-quit attitude, whereas other people seem to seek out the reasons to quit?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, quite frankly, Tim, because I think so many people think it's something you're born with, and it's definitely not. I didn't used to be that kind of person myself, and I think if we're all honest with ourselves, we didn't fall out of the womb and say, I'm going to be a go-getter. You know, there have been certain points in our life, small things or big things that have happened to us that have helped us realize that we can be different. And sometimes it is as simple as hearing the message from the right person at the right time. You know, there's the Chinese proverb, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Some people have to fall down 7 times to get up the 8th time to finally wake up and say something's going to be different. I'll share with the group, Tim, you and I talked very briefly yesterday, and I'd read a Robert Kiyosaki passage, and he talked about his dad saying there's only 2 things that are going to get in your way of being successful in life, self-doubt and laziness. And quite frankly, I've been off my workout routine, and so I read that quote. I went upstairs. I changed my clothes. I called you real quick because you'd showed up on my email, and I went out and I did 3.3 miles because that's my goal right now. As I literally am trying to learn to go from walking to running. So that isn't something that's always been wired within me. I've had my own personal challenges that have motivated me to learn a different way of going. But, you know, some people get hit with cancer, and that's the big red flag. Some people go bankrupt, and that's the big red flag. Some people, quite frankly, just hear the right message in the right moment and decide to do something different, and they start with a little change. So I know that everybody has access to the entrepreneurial spirit. What it takes is a willingness to let go of past behaviors in order to get there. And sometimes that's going cold turkey and changing everything. You know, some people, when they quit smoking, they just get up one day, they throw away the cigarettes, they never touch them again. Other people get the patch, get the gum, get hypnosis until they find the thing that's going to work for them to change the behavior. And so even stuff as simple as, are you getting on the phone with all your past clients and customers on a quarterly basis and talking to them and genuinely caring about what's going on in their lives? Most people aren't even doing that. And if you want more business in real estate, if you're not working your past clients and customers, you're completely insane, in my opinion. That's your single greatest source of business. Those people already know you, like you, trust you. Why not let them help you grow your business? And I'm not going to go off in the woods there, Tim, but the bottom line is
appropriate.
You got to change habits. So
right.
if you've got 500 past clients and customers and you haven't talked to some of those people in 10, 15 years, so what? Call one today.
Amy, we'll talk about some specific skills things because obviously we 100% agree with you on that. But I'm just sort of curious your opinion on this. So it seems like, and you were just talking about this, so many people wait for something. They won't make a change until the pain the pain is greater than the perceived pain of changing. In other words, the perceived pain of being homeless or the perceived pain of, you know, so many people don't lose weight until, well, our friend Buddy West, he went to the doctor and the doctor said lose weight or you're going to become, diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so now they're calling him Bud Light.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he lost.
Which I love.
Yeah, I know, it's funny, but he lost 40 or 50 pounds. So why is it that so many people, Amy, won't make a change, in your opinion? Because this is, you know, you coach in this space, and I know all of our listeners out there, they're all having some form of pain, right? Some of them have made the change. I have a lot of, and you do too. We're all blessed with a lot of great, you know, graduate level or one-on-one type coaching students who have made the change, who are on the other side of it, who frankly don't even remember how they got there, But I would say, 99.9% of the world, they're all sort of asleep. They're all still sort of waiting for something to happen that flips that internal switch. You mentioned that sometimes it's because people are just inspired by somebody or something. Maybe they're just attracted to that type of energy. But so many times, Amy, and I'm sure you'll agree, there has to be some moment of tragedy. It's almost like people are choosing to push themselves all the way down in this really deep hole, financial, emotional, health, spiritual, whatever it is, so that they'll be forced to make a change. It doesn't have to be that way, and it's so sad to watch people do that. What's been your experience with that?
For as silly as it sounds, and first of all, I'd just like to re-anchor what you said, which is change won't happen until the pain of change becomes less than the pain of staying the same. And Buddy's a perfect example. The pain of becoming diabetic outweighed the pain of changing to not be diabetic. He finally got the trigger. For some people, and it's just a known fact that most people are more motivated by a fear of loss than a hope for gain. So they have to be faced with losing something in order to make a change. There is a small percentage of people out there who are inspired by hope and the possibility of what the future could look like. I mean, if we want to take this all the way down to the most basic of basics, if you are a 13-year-old girl in Western Africa who is caring for 6 younger siblings, and you're told, look, if you don't start using this bar of soap after every time you go to the bathroom, you will not get rid of the germs that are causing the disease that are leading to your station in life. If you use this bar of soap every time you go to the bathroom, and you can stop getting malaria, and you can start going to school, and you can get an education which will allow you to come back to this community and build a little business around this clean water project we've just installed for you, you can literally change your life and you can change your future. Does it get any more basic than a bar of soap?
Maybe, Amy, what's going on in the country right now is that bar of soap. Maybe this pain right now that so many people are experiencing, and most of it's imaginary. Most of it's just because they can't wake up from the slumber that they're in from being surrounded constantly by negativity. Because after all, guys, even if you're in foreclosure, right? Even if you're in some place that's going to have 5 feet of snow on the ground within 90 days, you're still in America. You're still alive. You're still in the real estate business. There's so many wonderful things that are still going on for you. And if you just allow yourself to wake up and feel that little inspiration of, hey, you know what? Things could be worse. I could be that girl in Africa. Or you just connect with the realization that maybe all the stuff that I'm perceiving that I've lost, as a result of the real estate bubble collapsing, maybe those things really didn't matter. If I'm really being honest right now, I actually feel happier, feel freer now that I don't have those things holding me back, those burdensome, onerous, mortgage payments and all this rest of this stuff. People seem to be so emotionally attached to really what was, and you know what? It goes part and parcel with the topics of our questions today. But
here's the thing. People don't take the fear and ground it in reality. We all live with irrational fears. Fear of dying young, fear of dying in a plane crash, fear of, my God, the fear of public speaking is greater than the fear of dying in a fire. Are you kidding me with this one? But so what I walk people through is, okay, what is the specific fear? I'll give you a quick example. I had a lady, a team member of someone I coach, and she always answered the phone, day and night. She was afraid that the one time she didn't answer the phone, something catastrophic was going to happen, and she wasn't going to be there to help whoever it was that needed her help. I said, all right, so let's get more specific. Who's it going to be? What phone call is it going to be? What's the one phone call going to be that is the catastrophic call that you miss? And she says, one of my children's in trouble, in grave danger. I said, all right, how many kids do you have? 3. Out of those 3, are they all highly susceptible to grave danger? In other words, do they have terminal illnesses? Do they have high-risk factors? Do they get in trouble with the law a lot? Tell me about these 3 kids. Well, it's one kid. It's not 2 out of the 3 are doing great. It's the one kid. Tell me about him. He's on work release. Okay, so what's the likelihood that he would call you? Now, here's where we're grounding it in reality, Tim. What's the likelihood that that one phone call is going to be him in a life or death situation when you're telling me he's in work release, which, by the way, means you go straight from the jail to the job site, and they take you straight from the job site back to the jail. On 0 to 100%, what are the odds that he's going to call you Friday night between 5:30 and 9:30 because he's gotten himself in trouble and he's about to die? He's, something mortal is about to happen to this guy. And she said, well, like less than 1%. I said, I'll take those odds in Vegas all day long. Yeah. Shut your freaking phone off and don't answer it. And Saturday morning, I had her call me, and she had not only did he not call, but she didn't miss a single phone call. So whatever the fear is that's sitting in front of us, this is the whole point of my little rant here, is grounded in reality. I used to have an irrational fear of dying young. My grandparents lived to their 80s. My mom's in her 60s. You look at my family tree, historically, it's not going to happen. So then look at the choices I'm making. Am I a daredevil? Am I constantly putting myself at risk for getting in a type of accident that's going to kill me at a young age? No. So let's go likelihood then. 0 to 100%, what are the chances I'm going to die young? Less than a fraction of 1%. Now I've grounded it in reality. What we don't do with our fears is play them out to the worst case scenario and see what the likelihood is. Fear of losing your house? Okay, so what if you do? So you go to bankruptcy, then what? Where are you going to live? Okay, my neighbor will put me up in her basement for 6 months. Great. Then what do? You got to carry the fear out, whatever it is that you're facing, until it becomes so ridiculous and so infinitesimally small that you can move beyond it.
Well, the first thing, really what you're talking about to make this work and kind of whittling it down is really to be honest about what you're fearing. Be honest about what the thoughts are that are circulating around in your head.
Yep.
There's a statistic, Amy, and I know you've heard this as well, that something like 98% of all the thoughts that we had today are the exact same thoughts we had the day before, the day before, the day before, the day before. So basically, in essence, almost at the same time, during the same time of day, we're thinking about the exact same things we were thinking about before. And so we just stay in this constant state of being asleep, really. That's the best way to describe it. And we don't. And when we're so living in the past with all of our thoughts and our thought patterns, we're not leaving any space for us to have new thoughts, new experiences. And that's really, listeners, that's really the whole point of having someone like Amy on this call, because we're just trying to, although Amy's doing it a lot nicer than we normally would, Amy is trying to shake you awake a little bit, just for a second, just to have you just sort of take a little glimpse around, be in the moment, be present enough to realize, how wonderful it is for all of us to be together on this call, to share this moment together live on this call, in the middle of September 2010, and to be in this industry during this great time of change. Guys, if you just want to look at this strictly from a financial perspective, the greatest fortunes have always, always, always been made during the greatest times of change. We can throw in all kinds of Chinese proverbs and the rest of it, but really the bottom line is, guys, is there's going to be more money made long-term now because of this real estate market than there ever has been, ever. So you right now are in the position, if you're awake enough, if you're aware enough, and you're taking actions, you're going to be able to position yourself so that you can have, first of all, the financial security that maybe, if you're being honest, is one of the clear drivers and the main drivers for agents feeling insecure and doing kind of nutty things, is because they don't feel financially secure. You can create that financial security now. And then, guys, you can build wealth for yourself, wealth for your family, but also generational wealth. That's what type of opportunities a market like this creates. So if you're just strictly 100% money motivated, if that's what you think drives you, which, by the way, it probably doesn't, but just for the sake of conversation, understand that this market is your market. If you're somebody who's driven by wanting to be of service and help people, somebody who's more amiable in nature, well, you guys know that having skills and having the mindset of service is what this market's all about. Fact is, no matter where you are, you're needed. No matter who you are, you're needed. This real estate market's all about, frankly, people that have a mindset of service, and Amy, you certainly get that, I know. So, you want to have a more practical conversation now that hopefully pull them out of the clouds a little bit and give them some practical tools? I know you have some thoughts on this. I can tell. I can feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one other thing. You originally asked me the question, what drives the entrepreneurial spirit? What are the characteristics I've seen in these people? Here's the big one. They ask for help when they need it. Nobody succeeds in a vacuum and nobody succeeds alone. And so many people are so afraid of just asking. Tim, is it not true if you ask for what you want more often than not, you typically get it?
Well, yeah, exactly. And be willing to keep on asking even when you hear a no.
Yeah, if you hear a no here, go over there. If this person says no, ask that person. If this person can't help you, somebody else can. But if you're not willing to ask, and whatever the asking is, it's asking the REO bank to give you a chance on one listing. It's asking the top producing agent in your office to let you shadow them for a day. It's asking whatever you need to ask. It's asking your clients if they can help you get 8 more referrals this month. And here I go off in the woods again, Tim, but this is practical. If you just tell people you're trying to get more business, and please, I don't know how you are about the if and whens in your coaching practice, Tim, but I tell people never ask an if question, ask a when. When you hear of someone who's thinking about buying or selling, put my contact information in their hands and give me their contact information. Get out of if and into when. But here's my point with that. If you want, and I've got a guy in Vail who's looking for 6 more portfolio clients, would lead him to the financial freedom he wants in the next 5 years. And then he turned around and told me he was going to start talking to people about wanting more. I said, don't ask about just getting more. Say, I want 6 more, and I want them by the end of the year. The difference there is now people are actively engaged with a sense of urgency with a specific goal to help you achieve. If you tell someone, I want help losing weight, what are they supposed to do to help you? If you say, I want to start running a 5K 3 times a week over the next 60 days, now you've given someone something specific they can support you on. So start asking exactly for what you want and not generally for what you want.
That's, again, what you're saying is state the goal, and then actually what you're showing us on this call is how then you take it down to micro steps. You start actually breaking it down. You have to go beyond just the initial question, because then what happens after that are the answers, right? And the answers are what lead you to take action. Now, you said something, and I wrote it down, and I think it's very important. When you interview realtors, and as you've done, as we've done, and you ask them, like, so why did you get into real estate originally, right? What was your vision? And they always seem to have, sometimes you'll hear, well, I wanted to, get enough money to pay for a trip to Europe or buy a couch or something. But for the most part, they always say some variation of financial freedom. But here's the interesting thing that we've discovered. Financial freedom for most people, when you ask them what that means, they want to have X number of income-producing properties if they're realtors, or they'll say, I want to be a millionaire, or I wanted this or that. But they don't realize that because they haven't been willing to ask those follow-up questions, really what financial freedom truly means. What is? Do you need to have millions of dollars to have financial freedom?
Nope.
No, you don't. Do you need to have, 17,000 properties paid off and walk around with, with all that responsibility? You don't. Really, to have financial freedom at the end of the day, guys, you don't even need to have a huge amount of money. You just need to have very little expense and the ability to cover that expense easily. That's really the essence of financial freedom. When you look at the difference between somebody that lives in a, you said Vail. So let's say somebody that lives in Vail, works at Starbucks, lives in a $1,000 a month apartment, gets to ski probably 5 times a week versus a guy that's got a $10 million house. Is their lifestyle really that different, honestly? Is the experiences that they're having every single day, they're both on the same skis, probably the same mountain, looking at the same views. It's just that one person, I'm not saying, again, we're not suggesting that you shouldn't achieve. We're not suggesting you shouldn't set big goals. But what we're suggesting is you need to be realistic, especially in an economy like this. What's going to take for you to financial freedom? We're talking about paying off your debt. Dave Ramsey type stuff here, guys. We're talking about paying off your house. We're talking about really questioning every single thing, being awake to what you're spending your money on. Because, again, a lot of the pain and anxiety that folks are working their way through is as they deleverage themselves, not just from the onerous debts that they have, but they're deleveraging themselves from the onerous thinking that they had as a result of the bubble. In other words, as Buddha says, basically one of the great sicknesses is always the wanting more. The wanting is what one of the things is that keeps us miserable, keeps us asleep, is the constant wanting. So stop the wanting just for a little bit. Allow yourself to be happy with what you have, to be present, to really be grateful and thankful for the things that are around you. And you're going to realize that even if you're sitting in a situation where you're packing your cardboard boxes right now because you're about to lose your house to foreclosure, you're probably having your kids help you pack those cardboard boxes. Be thankful for them. You're still in America. I mean, guys, just be awake, even in this type of economy, to the opportunities that are out there. Now, as I say this, Amy, I'm thinking about the fact that there are a lot of agents out there that are saying, Tim, I mean, come on now. I'm making more money now than I ever have before. You have agents like that you coach as well, don't you, Amy?
Yeah. And you know what their biggest problem is?
Well, you tell me.
What next?
You know, actually, what we deal with, Amy, what I see a lot are that a lot of these guys have made money. In the bubble, they were great agents, but now they're like exceptional agents. And their thing is how awkward it feels for them to be surrounded by so many other people that aren't doing well. Amy, this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I hear that too.
I'm sure you do. Well, we have like agents now that are just making, the average agent last year, according to NAR, made what, $35,000. So we have agents now that are making.
That sounds high to me.
Yeah, probably. So we have agents that are making 100, 200 plus from just doing BPOs, no real estate transactions. And they get so much grief from the agents in their offices that are just struggling to make that $35,000 a year. It's so
Tim, you know why they boil two crabs in a pot?
I do, but yes, it's a great story. Go ahead.
They'll always hold each other down, and they'll die together in the boil.
That's right.
And that's what realtors do. Once you start getting successful, all the other crabs in the pot are trying to hold you in. They don't want you to be successful because that shows them it's possible, and that negates their belief that they are a victim of their current condition.
And that waking up is painful.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what a good coach really does, right? I mean, sometimes it's subtly, sometimes it's not so subtle, sometimes it happens a little bit at a time, sometimes it's all at once. But that's really the essence of. So, Amy, right now in the real estate business, right, what do you see that's working? What are you seeing from your perspective that's working? Maybe starting with mindset, but even more practically, what's working?
People aren't going to be happy to hear this because it's the stuff they don't like to do. The basics are working. Get on the phone with your past clients and customers. I tell all my coaching clients, mail monthly, call quarterly. What I mean by mail is it can be an e-newsletter, it can be postcards, it can be whatever you want to. You need to accomplish consistent and regular contact with the people who already know you, like you, and trust you. I don't care how you do it, but that you need to be in front of those people monthly, and you need to be on the phone with them quarterly. They need to know two things. Number one, that you're still in the real estate business because so many people aren't. The last statistic I heard before all the bad stuff started happening was 80% turnover every 18 months. It's probably higher than that now. So they need to know you're still in real estate. Number two, they need to know you actually care about them. That's huge. And you can accomplish that in 1,000 different ways. You can accomplish that by telling them the difference of what 0.5% of interest can make on a mortgage payment. You can accomplish that by asking about their kids that went off to college last year. And by God, if you're not using a contact manager, I got to get on this soapbox for about 30 seconds. I can't believe how many agents are still not using some form of contact management. Make your life exponentially easier. I don't care if it's Outlook, if it's Top Producer, if it's Agent Office, if it's ACT, if it's High Rise. Go get something and get all of your contacts in there. It's got to be a system that allows you to schedule recurring appointments so you don't have to think about the next time you've got to talk to somebody. So mail monthly, call quarterly. Absolutely leave voicemails. I hope I'm not telling your
No. Success follows the breadcrumbs, and this is all basics. Like you said, leave voicemails. But
this is crazy to me. Why in a day and age when everybody has caller ID would you call someone and not leave a message? People aren't going to go, oh, I'm so curious why Tim Harris shows up on my caller ID but didn't leave a message. What they're going to say is, why the heck would Tim Harris call me and not leave a message?
Let's do a little side trip here, Amy, into the woods with you, as you like to say. So onto the beach for us. But just for the sake of the conversation here, why don't agents call? Why don't agents leave voicemails? I
got the answer to this one.
Let's hear it.
Fear of rejection, or they don't know what to say. There are only two. Well, I'll throw in a third. They can't get their hands on their client information, which is my soapbox about the contact manager. There are three reasons you don't get on the phone. Number one, you can't find the contact information. Number two, you have an irrational fear about what might happen if they actually pick up the phone. Or number three, you have no clue what you're going to say.
So number 2 and 3, just to interject this for the sake of people taking notes, right? It all has to do with skills, but they all probably fall. All these points, Amy, all fall under the same umbrella, which is really ego. Because a lot of reasons that if you really root it out of folks, is that my gosh, what will they think of me when I call? Right?
Yeah.
What will happen if
I haven't talked to them in 7 years. They're going to be so mad at me that I haven't called them for 7 years. Well, get over yourself.
Right. Well, so what's going to happen?
Quite frankly, your clients haven't been sitting around for 7 years pining away for you to pick up the phone and call them.
No.
They're going to be pleasantly surprised when you do call because they weren't expecting it to begin with, and the fact that you're doing it is nice. And they know you, like you, trust you. I feel like a broken record on Larry Kendall channel or something. These people already know you, like you, and trust you. It doesn't matter if it's been 7 years or 7 days since you talked to them. So then it goes to you don't know what to say when you call them. Write down, right now, 10 reasons to call. Interest rate. Change in the family status. Change in job, which is huge for a lot of people right now.
Yep.
Educating them about what a good investment real estate is right now. There's 4 out of 10 right now. I'm not going to give all 10 because people need to think for themselves. What are some good reasons for you to call people? Is there a fun community event going to happen in the next 2 weeks in your area? That's a reason to call. Do you have 2 extra tickets to a baseball game or a football game? That's a reason to call.
Call them about.
Now I gave you 6.
Call them about we suggest obviously the same thing. Call them, some of them call your best list, call monthly, and just give them a quick snapshot and with the premise that, listen, you're getting a lot of misinformation, Mr. Homeowner, Mr. Past Client, Mr. Friend or Family Member, about what's really going on in the real estate market. And so as a service to all the people that I care the most about, I'm going to be calling everyone once a month and giving them a quick snapshot of the actual truth about the real estate market, and then just give them a quick summary of the absorption rate for their individual market. You can get all that out of the MLS, number of homes that are for sale, divided by the number of homes that are comps that sold last month, and then tell them the month's supply of homes that are totally available, and then ask their permission to keep in contact with them. So is it all right, Mr. Seller, that I contact you next month, and we have this conversation again just so I can pass along, and by the way, whom do you know that needs my help selling their house in this market, right? And be very subtle about it.
In the next 6 months.
Perfect.
Pin it down. People won't. Don't be so ambiguous.
And so people have this mindset that, well, if I ask for business, these people are going to think that I'm hungry, or they're going to think that I'm desperate, or they think that, there's all these ego things that are attached to it. Guys, that all comes from your ego. And I know, I just feel it intuitively, the hundreds of you that are listening to this call, there's some of you that are saying, I cannot believe Tim and Amy are having to tell the world to call their centers of influence past clients, because without them, I wouldn't have a roof over my head. And there's others of you that are saying, I will just tweet, or I will just social network, or I'll just send a postcard. Guys, nothing is ever going to replace that belly-to-belly personal contact.
That's right.
And if you're afraid to do, Amy, we did a survey a couple weeks ago and asking agents where their greatest sources of business was, and they were able to pick multiple answers. By far, the greatest source of business was from this category, centers of influence and past clients.
Yep.
All right, so
and it never changes. So let's talk about some of the other things. What's working right now?
Sure. Yes.
I can't believe how overlooked this one is. Expired. I have several people having huge success with expireds right now for two reasons. Number one, don't go after the expireds that are hitting the hot sheet today. Everybody calls the hot sheet expireds, or everybody with half a notion calls the hot sheet expireds. Pull the ones that are between 30 days and 9 months old. Verify they're not relisted and go after those people. Why? Because, first of all, they demonstrated they were already willing to work with the realtor. Unlike a for sale by owner, who may be a more difficult climb for a couple of its own reasons, they showed a willingness to work with the realtor. Number two, they've been off the market long enough to start feeling more desperate or be ready to try again. And nobody's going after the 30 days to 9 months people. And so then in your technique, the reason you're going to be successful is this. You're not going to just call them like every Susie agent is doing and say, I noticed that your listing's expired. Are you still planning on selling? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. They're getting that call all day long. You're calling them to find out, Mr. Seller, I know your market was on the home at one time, and I love helping buyers. I'm curious what your plans are should you eventually get your home sold. Are you staying in the area, or are you moving out of town? Get them engaged then in a conversation. People love to talk about themselves. First of all, they're not expecting you to ask about their buying plans. Second of all, if they're going out of town, you can place an outbound referral for them. If they're staying in town, now you've got a buyer you can start working with at a time when the interest rates are ridiculously good for people to buy. Get them engaged in the buying process, get them excited about finding that home, and now they feel a sense of urgency on getting their home sold, because we all know the reason that properties expire is because they're overpriced. You have to get them in a mindset of pricing. Now, here's the thing. People like to just mail to expireds. You've got to get on the phone and call them. Then you've got to follow up with a handwritten note. Then you've got to call them again. Then you've got to send them material on what you can do for them as a buyer representative. Then you're going to go knock on the door. This is the fifth contact, and people get really squeamish on this one. Guess what? Face-to-face interaction is more powerful than any other kind of interaction. You just said it, Tim, belly to belly. How many realtors are still willing to show up on their front door and say, I am this committed and this interested in working with you that I will come to your house and meet you face-to-face?
Well, especially this time of year, right? I mean, the unofficial end of the real estate season seems to be Halloween in most realtors' minds, right?
Yeah.
For some weird reason. So, yeah, this time of year is definitely the best time of year to be going after this. And, Amy, just getting back to the whole point of everything we're talking about, really, it comes back to skills. When you have the skills, you're willing to take action because you know what to say and how to say it. A lot of times in many markets, certainly many of the largest real estate markets, a lot of the expires are expiring because the previous agent was supposedly a short sale expert, and they didn't know what the heck they were doing, so they didn't get a price right, and it expired. So a lot of times the skills of knowing how to do a short sale are the very secret sauce that you need to list expires at a very high level, because when you call them, well, here's a sad fact, most realtors will still avoid homeowners who need to do a short sale or are close to basically being upside down. They just won't call them. And so, guys, to Amy's point, call these guys and absolutely positively use your short sale skills. Use what you've learned here at HREU, and that gives you an unfair advantage in the marketplace. Well, Mr. Seller, if we could get this home sold for you, if we could allow you to move to Florida, which was your original plan, in the time frame that you wanted, and we get the bank to forgive the upside-down debt that you're in, and you don't have to pay my fee. The bank pays my fee. In other words, Mr. Seller, I can solve this problem for you. I can get this home sold in the time frame that we can agree to. Would there be any reason you wouldn't list the house with me today? Right? Now, they're going to have lots of disbelief, especially if it's an expired listing, but the simple fact is, guys, taking the action, making that first call, as awkward as it might be, eventually, after probably 2 or 3, you're going to say, why the heck haven't I been doing this for the last 20 years?
Not only that, Tim, if you take the buyer approach I suggested and you get someone talking about what they're going to do in terms of buying, the fact that they may be in a short sale situation always comes out when you ask that question, because when they have to tell you, well, we're probably going to rent for a while. Oh, and why is that? Well, we're kind of upside down on our house right now. Really, did you know that there are professionals out there who are very good at working with short sale properties, and down off the road you go with the short sale. But the inroad really is to be interested in them, genuinely interested in them as a buyer. And you get them talking about themselves, and you earn a level of trust that no other agent is going after right now. It's all about point of difference.
You're basically, you're asking questions. Your scripts are all about questions. That's really a real skill. Again, it goes back to all an ego-based conversation, because a lot of realtors, what they'll do is they'll just sort of like, this is why you should list for me. Here's my pretty dog and my pretty car, and here's all my rewards, and that doesn't appeal to anybody. Whereas if you're approaching every contact with a sincere mindset of being of service and caring, and then you're knowing what questions to ask.
Here's why people do that, Tim. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no worries.
People talk about those things because they lack self-confidence in what they have to offer.
Yep.
If you're clear on how valuable it is for someone to work with you, you never have to tell a person a single bit of that. They know. You think about the people that, for the listeners, think about the people you've met, and the first time you met them, you just knew that they had their act together. You just knew that they knew their stuff, and you wanted to be a part of what they were doing without them ever telling you, here's how good I am.
Queen Elizabeth has a quote with this, which is perfect. I know Julia will appreciate this. And Queen Elizabeth used to say, if you have to tell them you are a lady, you are not. Isn't that awesome?
That's a great quote.
Yeah, it is.
It's so true, though. You've got to really, in this market, more than ever, you've got to really look inward and get honest with yourself. It goes back to the Kiyosaki thing. It's either self-doubt or laziness that's getting in the way of your success, and maybe a bit of both.
People do not like it when you use that really honest word called laziness, do they? Oh, they want to have their long list of, I'm working on this, I'm thinking about that, I'm planning, I'm organizing, I'm getting my blah, 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 blah.
Have you ever met one of those people that seems to have time to fit it all in? They've got 4 kids, 2 in college, 1 who's in kindergarten because they had the accident late in life. They're both career individuals. One of them is training for a 10K, and the other one is on an Ironman. And you're thinking, how on earth do they fit it all in? They made choices. Everything's a choice. That extra half hour of sleep in the morning is a choice. That pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks is a choice. Every single, it's beyond waking up. It's waking up and getting intentional while you're awake. And you know what? I struggle with it all the time. We're all human, for goodness sake. None of us are perfect. And every day presents an opportunity for us to get just a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think the biggest challenge that seasoned agents are having right now in this marketplace?
Seasoned agents, redefining what a team looks like.
Tell us about that.
I think people are stuck in a traditional mindset of listing coordinator, closing coordinator, buyer agent. First of all, what happened to a lot of people is they built a team when things were good and money was flowing, and now they have to tighten their belts, and they feel like they're responsible for these other people's lives. And so getting out of the traditional box of I've got these 2 people sitting at these 2 desks full time and I've got this other person, I see so much money still wasted right now on giving people who work for you so much more than is necessary, and not instead of empowering them, you're enabling them.
Well, talk about that. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so an example would be when you empower someone on your team, you say, I trust you to make good decisions. I know you're going to make mistakes. I'm not going to blow a gasket when you do, and I'm going to say any decision that is $500 or less, you're empowered to make any of those decisions without even talking to me. Come to me afterwards and say, look, in order to keep this deal together, I made the decision that we would split the costs on a refrigerator. It's going to cost us $300, the other agent $300. We're going to closing. That's empowering. Enabling would be if something comes up in the transaction, you need to call me, and now it falls on me, and I've got a refrigerator decision to make, and I'm going to waste 2 hours on the phone with someone when I could have been out knocking on an expired door or calling on one of my past clients and customers and getting another transaction to generate another $3,000 to $10,000, depending on what your market average market price is. You're not empowering people. So get in a mindset of being willing to let go of some of the stuff you're hanging on so tightly to because you're so afraid of losing $1. You know, don't step over the dollar to pick up the penny, I think is the old adage. So beyond that, then, if we go back to the discussion about the team, it's, you know, I've always thought I needed 2 full-time people sitting at desks to do these 2 jobs. Can it be done in half the time? Can it be done remotely?
Do you know Valerie Fitzgerald, Amy?
Uh-huh.
So, oh, that's right. Of course, I think she was a Howard star from way back in the day, wasn't she? Yeah,
I don't know.
sure.
I don't think she was ever a star, but she was a pretty active player in that network.
Yeah. So Valerie Fitzgerald, we've interviewed her a couple times, and she said some funny things in one of our interviews, which I just love. She said that she sold, you know, this gal, and you guys should look her up. We've interviewed her twice. She's written some great books. Just a really fantastic person overall. Mm-hmm. So she was talking about that she's made literally, I don't remember, Julie, maybe you'll remember, but it was obscene amounts of money in commission. Like she was making over $5 million, $10 million a year in commission. One of the most successful agents in the history of real estate. That's what we're talking about here. Made just tremendous amounts of money. And then she made the comment, she goes, Tim, I don't know where it all went. And then she said, I had 22 people working for me, and I don't even know what they all did.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so, Julie, you're not on mute. Okay, so, you know, she was talking about all of her unnecessary expenses and all these other things, and now she said she's basically taking herself down and she's focusing in on, well, just like you said, everyone's got 3 jobs, whereas before you had 2, because it turns out you weren't really working full-time before. And, guys, using technology, you know, you can have...
It's going back to being honest with yourself,
yep.
and that goes for your team members, too. You know, it's Parkinson's law. The work will expand to fill the space allotted it.
Yep.
So, you know, I've got a lady right now who's got 2 20-hour-a-week people. So they're not full-time. She doesn't have to give benefits. You know, there are all sorts of things that go along with having part-time people. These 2 part-time people are doing the work that she used to pay 2 people full-time on salary plus benefits to do, and they're doing it better than the people she had before. It took getting out of this traditional box of what do I need. You know what? They share a desk. One works 8 to noon, the other one works 1 to 5. And the Rainmaker had to get okay with, I can shut my phones down for an hour from noon to 1. I can put them on forward to voicemail for 1 hour. It'll be okay. I'm not, you know, real estate is not a life or death business. People are not bleeding on the table in an hour's time. Those crises are not going to go away. They'll be waiting for you in an hour. So, you know, getting out of this traditional mindset. I have another lady who said to me the other day, well, I don't think people will respect me if I work out of a home office. Well, why is that? Because that's your old perception. Martha Hendrick, who kicked butt in the Woodlands, Texas, and is in Bend, Oregon now, she works out of her home in Bend. She has a title company and a coffee shop. Those are her conference rooms. That's where she meets people, and they love it. So get out of your own way. If you're paying $1,500 a month for office space, do you really need it? Could you do $500 a month? Could you do nothing per month? Get creative. Start looking at things in a different way. And I think that's where seasoned agents are so stuck because they've done it a certain way for so long that they can't fathom doing it differently. And
that gets back to the basics thing we were talking about, calling past clients on the prospecting and lead generation end. But what about getting back to basics, the decision making you made when you were a new agent and didn't have the money to waste? Mm-hmm. It's amazing to me how many financial mistakes happened during the boom just because there was so much money flowing that nobody paid attention. Yep. So, you know, those decisions or lack of decisions during that time are really being highlighted when you take that massive cash flow away. What decisions are you making? And the thing is, why wouldn't you make the same decisions now just as a smart business person as you did when you didn't have the money to waste?
Credit flow or the cash flow.
Let me take it down. Yeah, let me take it down to the elemental. You go, you buy your groceries, you take your groceries home. In the heyday when money was flowing, did you watch the cashier ringing your stuff up? I'll give you the answer. It's no. The little stuff adds up. You're already in the store. You're already standing there. You have nothing else to do but to wait on this person to ring up your groceries. Does it take that much more energy for your left eyeball to glance up at the screen and hear the beep as it goes across and look at the screen? People make mistakes. It's the little stuff that adds up to the big stuff. And you know what? Read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Read Millionaire Next Door. All these books talk about the same thing. It's caring about the small stuff that leads up to the big stuff. You know, I clip coupons. I bet you guys don't. But I saved $27 in coupons when I made my 2-week grocery run last week. That's just $27 gained. What does $27 get me over the course of a year if I'm shopping 20 times? That's $540. That's a new laptop.
Well, Amy, what you're talking about really is, again, getting back to the fact you just have to be aware. You have to be awake. You have to be present.
Wake up. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you're reminding me of a new, Oleg is his name. Hopefully he's listening today. He sent me his financial, like everything he was spending money on in his business, and he was spending $830 on a bunch of different things, you know, this website, this, that, the other, something or another. And I asked him, so what does all this stuff do? Can you actually trace any actual closed business back from it? And he said, no. He said, I've just been paying $830 a month. So,
and that's my point.
Yep.
Are you running a homes and lifestyles ad because you think every seller thinks they have to be in the homes and lifestyles? You're buying 8 pages or 16 pages every month? I've got Kathy Russell in West Lafayette, Indiana, down to 2 pages. And the primary focus is on go to my website to get more information. And if you're in distress, call me. She's focusing on the lead-generating things and not placating sellers. Are you willing to make those? And guess what? There was outrage in her board when she went from 16 pages to 2 pages. Now everybody's copying her. They got it figured out. They're going to print the Homes and Lifestyles now once a month instead of twice a month. Be the leader of making smart business decisions in your area. Don't wait for someone else to show you the way. Get creative and figure out how to do things differently. Understand what people want.
Well,
they want their home sold. They don't want bulky advertising.
And don't be, you know, to your example of Kathy Russell, I mean, I remember when Julie and I were in the business, too, we were in those print advertising ads, and at the end of the day, you know, you were afraid to stop doing them because of the perception of your ego, right? So it's like, what will happen if I stop doing these? I'm not really getting my phone to ring, but are people going to the Homes magazines to see if I'm still alive? You know, it's just all these crazy ego thoughts, whereas you realize they're just a bleed of money, and if the sellers don't really care. Jim Duval,
you know what? If you're calling your sphere quarterly, they know you're still in the business. They could care less if you're in the Homes and Lifestyles.
And that's free. Jim Duval, who obviously is a friend of both ours, right? I mean, you're
adore him.
Yes, that's right. So I asked, and Jim Duval, who you guys don't know, let's just assume that he's a very, very successful, wealthy guy. His wife's in real estate. Jim's invested in tons and tons of different things. So one of the questions I asked Jim once is, you know, some silly question like, how did you do it? How did you become a billionaire? And, you know, right? And so
he's a bazillionaire. You can call him a bazillionaire.
Yeah.
He'll laugh at you when you do that.
This guy owns like walnut, you know, big forests of walnut. And when walnut was all the rage, just recently walnut veneer, he had to put alarms on all of his walnut trees so no one would steal them. He had these gas lines coming down from Canada. I mean, so this guy's a very, very, very successful entrepreneur. So the question was, how did you do it? And he said, I just started out by taking a little bit from every single check. Started out by 10%, then 20%. I paid off all my debt. I avoided debt like the plague, you know, when I was starting. And so one of the things that we, and I'm sure, Amy, you do this as well, we advocate is, so guys, to what Jim said and to what all the books that Amy was referencing said, pay yourself first. What the heck does that mean anyway? You know, Julie, you're the one that started us on the pay ourselves first thing about a decade ago. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that's when we first started to feel a huge difference in the ability to save. And, you know, especially in real estate, when we first started doing that, it started with, I think we started taking like $500 off of every check, and then it became 10%, and then we built it up to 20% off of every check. And I'll tell you, that forces you to keep to a budget for your marketing, for, you know, your office expenses. What I see with agents, and I'm sure, Amy, you see this too, is that, you know, somehow all the bills get paid that month. Mm-hmm. But when you ask them, you know, what's your budget for marketing? there's no, quote, budget. It's just what they think they should be spending. There was really not a particular thought process. Maybe it's because they think the sellers have to. But when you force yourself to pay yourself first, and that's not real, I tease my coaching clients that it's called a savings account. It's not called a spendings account. And that they, just like work is called work, not vacation for a reason, right? Okay, so once they do that and that money is not available to spend, when they set those accounts up, they're not allowed to have a checkbook that goes with it. It's just a savings account. That's when they start to build the kind of wealth that leads to a thought process like Jim Duvall's, where you're thinking bigger picture. You've got to, do it a little bit along the way. Too many agents, I think, believe that they're going to do it off of that mythical $3 million listing that someday they'll have a huge commission, and that's where they'll hit the jackpot.
That's how we used to say.
We did.
Yeah, before Jim sort of like smacked me to life, about a decade ago, whatever it was. He, the essence of the conversation was, "Hey, dummy, the way you make money is you save it by spending it." And the ethos in real estate is, I will have enough paid off rental properties. Well, that works, but it's kind of risky. Recent real estate bubble will kind of prove that point. Well, I'll just have a really big closing. I'll just do this, I'll do that. No, guys, you do it by saving a certain percent. Start out small. Start out by saving. First of all, have a reserve savings account, a little cash on the side, under the mattress, whatever. Then you pay off your different debts, and then, you pay off your house. That's how you build it. That's how you do it. And stop looking for as my dad used to say, the big eagle to fly over, right? It's not going to happen. And that takes discipline, and that takes a lot of honesty about why you're spending money. Are you spending money because it makes you feel good? Are you spending money because your ego tells you have to look a certain way? So this is kind of a funny way to wrap up this, and I think we're going to talk about a couple other points here and answer some questions. As I asked Valerie, some agents on that call were asking about what kind of car she drove and all this other stuff, and she says, "You know what? I've been leasing Bentleys, year in, year out, lease in, lease out. I've been leasing Bentleys." But she goes, my marketplace, and she's selling houses to Bruce Willis, and so my marketplace, they're not really into that right now. They're not into the Bentleys. She said, "I'm thinking about getting a Prius." But I thought that was interesting because she was driving that car and she was spending that money because she wanted to create this perception of how she would be seen. Her ego was telling her, well, people will reject you unless you look like you're this or you're driving that or you live there. Guys, that's all in your heads. It's all Mickey Mouse. Really, at the end of the day, when you're doing a great job providing real estate services, this new breed of agents, which is kind of what we're kind of pointing towards on this call, guys, the new type of agent that's coming out, the non-sort of mindset, baby boomer mindset agent that's not all about me, these guys have a totally different set of rules. So, Amy, let's talk about that new breed of agent. Let's talk about specifically what has changed. Why aren't the old training models, or why aren't the old business models in real estate working now?
Well, let's look first of all at who's entering the business right now. 5 years ago, every Tom, Dick, and Harry was getting a real estate license because it was such a cash cow. You've got young, entrepreneurial-minded business people who want to make a difference in the world getting into real estate right now. They're entering already with the mindset of, I want this to make a life for me that allows me to be philanthropic. It's kind of crazy that we have to consider that it's become hip to be philanthropic, but it has. And so these are people who could care less about the ego portion of the business, and they've gone to business school, and they get budgets, and they get business planning. Their hardest thing is learning relationships because they've been raised in a generation that lives off of texting. So they have to learn how to get belly to belly with people. They don't care about the ego. They are already savers. This is who seasoned agents are competing against. And,
Amy, let me just reinforce what you just said because it's so important. And not to take anything away you are so spot on with that. We look at our friends at Rain Camp and our friends at Active Rain. And when you go to those rain camps, guys, which all of you should go to when they come to your town, you're not going to be sitting around in a very traditional real estate environment. You're going to be having people, realtors, that are having these conversations that for a lot of traditional-minded realtors are going to seem like very threatening. And your initial response is going to be, I'll just hire somebody to do whatever it is they're talking about, right? The blogging. I'll just find somebody to do my guest blogging or the social networking or the rest of it. I'll just delegate it out. Ain't going to work. They're hoping that you have that mindset. They're hoping that you're intimidated by the change that this technology is bringing on. The beauty of all these changes that are happening, all this, change is sort of a dirty word in the real estate industry, of course, but this evolution, if you want to call it that, that's happening as a result of the type of thinking that's happening with the social networking and the rest of it. Guys, that is freeing. It's amazing how much, frankly, how effective those things are, how free they are, because most of them are free, and really how it makes it so that you guys can sell more houses, communicate with more people. I mean, I was explaining to Julie some of the new changes that Twitter just made to, their page yesterday, because Julie certainly understands what tweeting is and the rest of it. But I explained to her some of the changes that they made now where people can start easily tweeting videos, and they can start. So if you guys have a list of 10,000, let's say, or even 500 local people that live in your community, people that, chose to follow you on Twitter, people that chose to listen to care about your message, that you're forming a relationship with, or maybe you already have a relationship with. The traditional way of doing real estate is you contact your centers of influence and past clients, either every month, every quarter, whatever it is. You're supposed to contact them. Through this technology, guys, if you think about it, you're contacting them on a regular basis. You become part of their natural stream of consciousness every single day. 10% of all time on the Internet is spent on Facebook. So you guys better be on Facebook. When you update your status through Twitter, all these technological things that are happening, that's what we're talking about. That's what's working now, and that's what's really going to work, because the next wave demographically of home buyers, unfortunately, they're not going to be baby boomers. The baby boomers, they're out to pasture now. They're headed towards their, wherever they're headed towards in terms of their next real estate decisions. Most of the people on this call are essentially baby boomers. And guys, you guys know, you're thinking about downsizing for the most part. You're not thinking about buying your next big house. Maybe you're thinking about taking some of the money that you would have spent on your lifestyle to, put towards retirement, whatever it is. It's your kids, right? It's the people that are younger than Amy, Julie, and I that are in their early 30s and their late 20s, because we're all, Julie's a youngin' here at 39. Amy and I are both 40. Actually, you're 41, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm the old one.
Oh, wow. So, it's the kids, the people that are younger than us. That is going to be the next huge wave in real estate, because there's more baby boomer kids than there were baby boomers. If you plan on being in this business for 10 years, if you're not paying attention to how those people communicate, they can click away on an SMS text or whatever. Oh, I said text, there's an old word. But they can send messages back and forth, right? Faster than they can talk.
My son, who's 14, the other day said to me, Mom, if you're going to forward something to my Gmail account, would you please text me and let me know that you did, because I don't check my email that often.
How crazy is that, right?
All right, son.
So I was going to tell you to remind you to do your homework. I'll text it to you.
I'll forward you the calendar the school sent me of what's coming up in the next 10 days, but now I have to text you and tell you it's in your email, or you won't go look at it.
Or you can just go do it as our parents used to do it, and just, open your bedroom door and yell at you and slam the door. It's not the traditional way to do it.
I want to say this about social media, and because we have a lot of baby boomers, it sounds like, on the call. You need to decide right now how much longer you want to be in this business. And there's no right answer. And here's why. If you want 2 more good years in real estate and you're done and you're happy with that and you're going to sail off into the sunset, or you're going to go to your next, that's great. Don't waste your time on social media. Get on the phone and call your past clients and customers in your sphere, and you will have plenty of business in the next 2 years to finish out and ride off into the sunset and never have to learn social media. If you want to be in this business for another 10 years, you've got to get in, and you've got to get in now, and start with Facebook. Don't do anything else until you master one social media platform. Once you've mastered that platform, you've got it into a system, you're doing it consistently, you're committed to it, it's a new behavior, you've adopted it, then get into the next platform. What I see so many people doing, and it's such a huge mistake, is, I heard I need to do social media. I get that. Now I'm going to start a Facebook account, start a Twitter account, start a YouTube account, start a Posterous account, get on Meetup. I'm going to do all these things, but I'm not going to do any of them well. Again, this is a back to basics concept. Do one thing and do it really well. And when you've mastered it and you've got it on a system, then do the next thing. On the soapbox for social media, please don't use those sites that mass update over all platforms. You have a different message to put out to your different communities. If you're on LinkedIn, that's a very specific community with a very specific purpose, and they don't want to read about the stuff that you're going to post on Facebook. Same thing goes for Twitter. Understand the difference between the channels and communicate to the channel. If I'm out at my son's track meet and he just finished first in the 100-meter hurdles and I take a picture on my phone, I'm going to send it to Facebook. And people are going to love that, and it's going to build relationships, and they're going to comment on that. If I'm at Rotary and we have a good speaker talking about the inverted pyramid of trust and understanding, I'm going to send that to Twitter from my Foursquare account. I'm not necessarily going to send that to Facebook. You need to understand who you're talking to, understand your audience, and communicate directly to that audience, because it's not the same across the board.
It's the analogy that we use when guys, if you want to learn Twitter stuff, just go to agenttechsecrets.com. But the analogy is basically all of them represent sort of like different social gatherings, right? You know, so Facebook might be like an after hour, or see, LinkedIn's like an office party, an office get together, you know, and Twitter's probably more like a party. You know, Active Rain's probably like a real estate conference where they're serving coffee and donuts, and there's a lot of conversation in the hallway occasionally. So you guys got to kind of put yourselves mentally in a mindset. Well, what's this environment that the social networking? Because each of these social networking things, there's parallels to sort of the real world as far as how you're supposed to behave. You know, you don't, to Amy's point, you don't want to go onto LinkedIn, for example, and start posting up pictures of you with your beer hat on at the OSU football game, right? Or maybe you do. I don't know. It depends on the people in your group, right? But the fact is that you got to be thinking about how you want to present yourself in those different environments. So, Amy, we're obviously over the hour, but I've got two other questions for you. Do you have time?
Absolutely. Happy to make time.
I heard you say throughout this call, and I really appreciated this, and I wrote this down, and I have another question after this that I'm going to ask in honor of Mr. Howard Britton. So what do you mean when you say people need a next? What the heck does that mean?
You know, a lot of people are just working to get by every day, and they don't have a bigger vision of what they want their life to be about. And when you don't have a next, when you don't know what else your life is for, and this is a big thing I deal with in coaching outside of the real estate industry as well as in, it's time for you to make a commitment to yourself and what you want your future to be like. It's like saying you got into real estate and just saying, I want to be successful in real estate. So what are you going to do when you get there? And if you study at all some of the case studies of what's happened with people who are successful in business but that fall apart, it's because they don't have a next defined. And your next might be, once I reach a certain level of financial freedom, in my case, I want to go build clean water projects in third world countries because I believe that is the true pathway out of poverty. Clean water is the foundation that leads to everything else that creates opportunity for people to get out of their current station in life. So for me, that is my next. I'm going to be taking my first trip, I hope, next year to actually work on a clean water project, and I know how much the plane ticket's going to cost. I know how much per diem I need to set aside. I can plan for that. I have specific tangible goals and a sense of urgency to do that. I have coached people, and Tim, I'm sure you have them too, where they've made money hand over fist in real estate, but they don't know what to do with it. And I'm not saying everybody needs to go out and be this great world philanthropist. You know, maybe your idea, Tammy Fadler is a wonderful example in Festus, Missouri, where she said, my next is someday I will live in America with all 27 of my relatives I had to leave behind in Vietnam. And she worked day in and day out in real estate to become a very successful real estate agent. She just achieved that goal, I think, about 18 months ago, where she brought her final relative over here from Vietnam to experience the same world of opportunity that she did. If you don't have, your next may be buying a condo in Cancun and moving out of the United States and never coming back. I don't know what your next is, but if you don't have a next, you're just going to keep driving aimlessly along and never feel a sense of greater purpose in this world. You may want to switch careers completely. Maybe your passion is to be a concert flutist, or maybe your passion is to be a singer, or maybe your passion is to be an elementary school teacher. And imagine what it would be like if you could be in the educational system with no need for income. You were simply there because you wanted to help change the lives of young minds at a very early age. How cool would that be? If you don't have a next, you have no greater sense of purpose calling you forth to get out of bed every morning, to do more, to be better, to improve your systems, to train up people to replace you, to build a saleable business. If you don't have a next, you're just going to keep plodding along at a pretty predictable rate, and you're never going to get anywhere. Maybe your next is to open 7 offices. Maybe your next is to leave your franchise and open your own office. But if you don't have a next, you're not going to move forward. You're just going to keep treading water where you're at.
Yeah, that's right. Well said. And basically everything, your next really seems to be focused on using your examples of really, with Martin Luther King and every great leader has always said our highest and truest purpose on this earth is being of service to others. Mm-hmm. And guys, if you're feeling an emptiness or a void in your lives and what you're doing in your real estate businesses, reconnect with that. Reconnect maybe for the first time with understanding that the real estate business is truly all about being of service to others. Amy, you are confronted by this every day, and Julie and I are confronted by this every day, this sort of legacy thinking about our industry, that it's a numbers game, right? That people are just contacts, and that, if this deal doesn't work out, you just go to the next, and, all the rest of it. Guys, all those things, they're obviously true. The analytical aspects of the business are obviously relevant, but the dominant mindset has to be with, whom can I serve? How can I help you? Understanding that there's such a great feeling. You guys can hopefully feel it on this call. Amy and I aren't thinking, and Julie's not thinking about anything other than disseminating information in a way that you guys will hear it and feel it, and so that you can take action on it. We're trying to sincerely help you. Amy hasn't even mentioned the fact that she's got a fantastic conference that's coming up that everyone should be attending, and we're going to talk about that. Actually, let's talk about that now, Amy. You have a group. Go ahead.
Well, what I really like to share, and I'm always reluctant to self-promote, and I think most great successful people come from a place of humility because we know, and this goes back to what I said earlier about a real estate agent who's confident in what they have to offer. I know that what I've put together in terms of a workshop platform is going to benefit the people that show up. I looked at what was being offered out there and I said, okay, what's working about what's being offered out there? Everybody's doing best practices from best agents, and yes, we absolutely need that, and so that has to be a part of the model. What's missing for me are a couple of things. First of all, if you've ever gone to a conference and you had a problem before you left for the conference, a nagging problem, and you said, I hope something on the agenda matches this problem and I solve it before I go home, and then you get home and you didn't solve it, how frustrating that is and how that immediately puts you back into exactly where you were when you left. So we put one-on-one coaching on site into the workshop model so that everybody gets to sit down with someone who specializes in the area where they're having their problem and get it fixed before they go home. The other thing, and Tim, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, and Julie, I know you feel the same way, people who go to conferences get completely jacked up and excited, go home, nothing changes, they're right where they were when they left. So we put 6 months of accountability in place in small group format so that everybody's meeting on a monthly basis with the people they were at the workshop with, saying what's worked, what successes did you have, where are you getting stuck, what challenges are you seeing, and what's your commitment from now until 30 days from now when we all talk again. And what we found so far with the first 2 events we've had is both of those pieces are having a big impact on people's ability to move forward. The other thing that was really important to me, because all 3 of us here on this call come from this coaching platform, is it's not just about generating more units. It's about keeping the money you make, and it's about taking care of yourself. Tim and Julie, you too, and I have lost some dear friends through this network who, for whatever reason, chose to put their business ahead of taking care of themselves. I think about Art Scott, for example. You've got to take care of you too. And so there's a lot of focus at this workshop on what is what is your balance, finding what your balance is. And so we've got the events coming up next month. It's October 21st through the 23rd in Denver. realestatemasters.guild.com is the domain if you want to go and check it out. I'd love to have anybody who is in a space where they feel called to more and want support to get there in all aspects of their life and not just the units. Yes, you guys are hopefully coming. I know Julie's working on a schedule conflict to talk about REO foreclosures. We've got people coming to talk about social media. We've got people coming to talk about how to create buyer urgency, which is very difficult for some people right now. And we also have people coming. Ron Kubek's going to talk about how he's been able to take the blessings that he's had out of real estate and go on mission trips to Romania and Hungary and work for Habitat, which happens to be a personal passion of mine as well. You know, you don't have to start with these things in big steps like traveling to another country. Talk to your local Habitat about the Brush with Kindness program they just launched, where they're going out and instead of building new houses, they're helping restore existing properties just by putting a fresh coat of paint on a house that had the asbestos removed and the paint chips cleaned off. There are things you can do that don't cost you any money, take a little bit of time, and leave you feeling so hugely rewarded. And that's what Masters Guild is about. It's about integrating the success in business with success in your life and helping you determine how to have balance between those things.
Well, it goes back to the Chinese proverb, Amy, that, you know, a smart man learns from his mistakes and a brilliant man learns from the mistakes of others. Mm-hmm. And attending a conference like this, what you're describing, coaching, what we've been talking about, attaching yourself to people that have been further down the road that hopefully in some ways have been woken up, right? That's your ability to learn from the mistakes of others and learn through others. I mean, I know you've been coached. Julie and I have been coached. We talked about Jim Duvall, who I think, Amy, for both of us has acted as kind of an unofficial, unwilling coach at times. But still, guys, you know, attach yourselves to what you want to be and find some people that have those qualities and have been down that path, and you'll get there faster. So, Amy, the last question I wrote down for you, by the way, a bunch of people are asking what that website is. What's that website? It's on our blog, guys, timandjulieharris.com, along with...
It's Real Estate Masters Guild, and Masters is plural, .com.
So, Amy, we met each other originally. Julie and I met you through Howard Brinton, right? Mm-hmm. And so Howard Brinton, I think, has been very inspirational in all of our real estate careers.
Yes.
And Howard used to end every one of his interviews with various questions, but he ended our interview back in the 90s by asking us what drives you, what motivates you, what is it that gets you up in the, you know, what is it that's really, what's your spark all about? And that's the question I have for you in honor of Howard.
I'm so glad you asked, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say encountering Howard Brinton and the Star Power Network has literally changed my life. I would not be where I am today without it, and I will be forever grateful. First to Kathy Russell, first to God for giving me the ability, second to Kathy Russell for taking me to that first Star Power conference and her interview with Howard with her. For the love and outpouring of that network, and you guys, you've got to find a group of people who you can get belly to belly with through whatever organization it is, where they genuinely care about you and your quality of life.
And Amy, let me interject something here, okay? Just because it's important, because we don't preach this, you don't preach this. It doesn't have to be one, right? You guys could get involved. I mean, seriously, there's this, and you know, Amy, it's really a carryover from the 80s and maybe even part of the 90s where these real estate gurus were like, you have to follow my, you know, shave your head, pass out roses to the airport for me. I mean, Amy, do you consider yourself a guru?
My goal is to create a guru-free environment for people to be in.
We hate gurus.
I intentionally handpick presenters who are called mentors for a reason because they put their ego out of the equation. They're genuinely interested in being with other people who want to help. And so, you know, you asked the question, first of all, thank you so much for saying it doesn't have to be one. You should be associating yourself with any organization that gives you the opportunity to fulfill your life's purpose. AFIRE is something I'm a part of. That's Bernice Ross's women's only retreat she does every year. Amazing group of women. I've met some just fantastic lifelong friends through that organization. I go to CyberStars every year, which right now is an invitation-only group based on technology, but they're looking at doing some more public things to pull people in. Active Rain, meeting Jonathan Washburn at your event, Tim, in May was just a wonderful blessing to me. He's very much a like-minded person. Get out there and get to the stuff that supports what you want for yourself, whatever it is. If you want to go to NAR because you love the trade show, if you want to go to CRS Celebration, there's a great high-caliber group of people to associate with. Get out there and find the niche of people that fits with what you want to accomplish. And do as many as your budget will allow, because it's really in the relationship part of being the human beings that we are that we make the greatest strides.
So what drives you question does seem to be revolved around being of service. I mean, because when I ask you questions like that, you speak from such a different place. You're not talking about your specific, what drives you. You're answering the question in such a way that would lead me to believe that what's truly driving you is the feeling that you get from helping other people.
I know I was put on this earth by God to make a difference. And my my grandfather, always said, leave the world a better place than you found it. I sincerely believe that I was called to do that, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that by the time I leave this planet, that my children, my grandchildren, my family, my closest friends know that I did everything in my power to make a difference for them as well as myself. I'm a Rotarian because I firmly believe in service above self. There is so much reward that can be gained by being of service to other people, and absolutely nothing to lose. So that's what gets me out of bed every morning, is knowing that by the end of the day I will have made a difference in at least one life and hopefully several lives by the time I go to bed at night. And I can feel good about myself, and I sleep like a baby at night because I know that that's what I put at the forefront of my day.
And the little hidden secret in all this, and it's not really much of a secret if you guys have been paying attention and listening, is that money flows easily when you have that mindset. When you're here helping a lot of people at a high level, money will flow to you. You will generate income. The things that you think are problems will just essentially evaporate when you've adopted that mindset. The mindset of service, guys, that's truly what we're trying to have all of you live. And being of service is really the whole point of us being alive. It is the meaning of life. If some of you want to look at this as a totally different level in our opinions, it's helping other people. It's being of service. That's it. That's really as simple as it is. We're never going to discover truly what it is. We're not meant to, right? We're not designed to, but we are designed to be of service to others. That is our gift. Birds fly. Fish swim. Humans are supposed to love and help each other. That's what our natural gift is. So when you apply that, and you live it and you breathe it, everything changes, but it starts with that one dominant thought. Amy, sincerely, I've really enjoyed this interview.
Me too. I've had a great time.
We have as well. So, guys, this interview is going to be available on replay. You can listen to it at any time. And so think about these thoughts we've shared with you. Some of you are so used to this thinking in terms of short sales and RIOs and prospecting and expireds and social networking. But bring it all back to what we're talking about now, because it will make a difference. Apply the mindset of service to everything that you're doing in your real estate business. Apply everything we're talking about from a perspective, how can I help you? When you're calling the asset manager, how can I help you? When you're calling that center of influence past client, have that be your dominant thought, and watch how the interaction changes. Notice how you feel less stressed because, guys, what's happening is you're unplugging your egos. When you have the dominant thought of how can I be of service, you're unplugging your ego, and that stress goes away, and all of a sudden it's fun, it's natural, because you're living your purpose. You're doing what you're designed to do. So, Amy, on behalf of Julie, myself, and all the faculty and staff at Harris Real Estate University, I want to sincerely thank you and all of our listeners today for participating in the Harris Real Estate University Superstar interview. And don't forget, if you're available, you definitely want to go to Amy's event, and the website for that again is
realestatemasters.guild.com. Click on events in Denver.
So, guys, give us some feedback on the webinars. There's hundreds of you on the call. Give us some feedback. If you have any questions that you want me to forward to Amy, put them in the webinar. Any way we can help you to continue this conversation, let us know. So on behalf of Julie, myself, and all the faculty and staff of Harris Real Estate University, thank you for joining us for today's Superstar interview.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Bye-bye.